Hello, BookTube. Many months ago, when we had Steve visiting us, Steve Donahue, he did a bookshelf tour in the middle of when I was doing all my bookshelf tours. And he did a tour of one of my Star Trek shelves. So as some of you know, Steve recently visited us for the holidays, Thanksgiving. And we asked him to do the same thing, but with two entirely different bookshelves. So he's basically going in blind, looking at my shelves and giving a tour. So these shelves have already been done by myself in the past, and so he's having a go at it. So this shelf tour is the first of the two he did on this trip, and I hope you enjoy.
Hello, BookTube. You know, one of the things that you will most want to do when you're in the wavy floored 200-year-old farmhouse here up in Vermont is the same thing that I want to do, which is to prowl around the bookshelves that line the walls here and pick out stuff that looks interesting. So I want to do that. I want to do a couple of videos like this because it's all I've been doing while I've been here is staring at the books on the walls. And Mark did bookshelf tours extensively, the biggest bookshelf tours on BookTube, but it was a while ago. So I thought I'd go through a few of the shelves and see what we find. So we'll do this first one. We have to pull out a book in order to get them to move because these shelves are inset, so you can't pull out the ones on the edges. So we'll pull out one and work our way in. There we go. All right, so the first one is People of the Book by Geraldine Brooks. This is a fantastic novel about in main part about a character who finds stuff in old books and learns all about the lifespan and time of the books from that stuff. Seeds, smudges of food, whatever. And there's a larger plot that goes on in the midst of the book, but the thing that I took away from it is how amazing it is about the life of physical printed books. In fact, when I finished with, well, I had a hardcover copy when this came out. This was what, 10 years ago? I had a hardcover copy in 2008, 10 years ago. I had a hardcover copy of this when it first came out, and when I finished, I found myself extra aware of what I had done with it. Did it have dog hair in it? Did it have stains all over it or whatever? This book will make you think that way. So what have we got next? Oh God. Oh my God. This is The Road by Cormac McCarthy. I won't say his post-apocalyptic novel, his attempt at a post-apocalyptic novel about a man traveling with a boy across a wasteland and something bad has happened to the world and he's trying to shepherd the boy to a better life, etc., etc. I read it and hated it. I waited a year, I reread it and hated it even more. And you will get to hear in detail why I hated it, chapter and verse, because in the new year I'm going to be doing a read-along of this with the guys at Strip Cover Lit. And they can praise it all they want, but I am going to rip it to shreds. So, but here it is in a nice somber hardcover if you're interested. Okay, here we go. Here's more Cormac McCarthy. This is his breakaway hit, All the Pretty Horses, about basically three young men, one of whom breaks away from the other two, all three of whom end up with horrific fates, and not one of whom ever for even a single second in the entire course of this novel acts like a human being. This is All the Pretty Horses has more space aliens in it than anything that Greg Benford ever wrote. but it is hailed, I'm sure that if I were to read the blurbs on this, they would hail it as a searing work of Western realism, or whatever. So less said the better. Oh, yes. Oh my. Okay, I don't know this edition. Wow, this is Mark Helplin's Winter's Tale, which starts with the great epigraph, I have been to another world and come back. Listen to me. This is an amazing novel, one of the great novels of the 20th century. At heart, on one level, the story of a boy and a horse. A boy who comes from nothing, thinks he will go to nothing, and a horse that appears out of nowhere and is a Thansor is the most incredible being in the novel. But there's also a consumptive girl who steals every scene she's in. Don't, of course, you already know, but don't judge this by the movie that was made out of it. And the movie that was made out of it with Colin Farrell and Russell Crowe was actually better than it looks. But it was still not a patch on. You can't film this book, I don't think. You might be able to do it in like a 10-part series. But, oh my God, the next time you see a copy of this book and you think, I've heard that praised by everybody, I wonder if it really is as good as it's been told. Yeah, it is. So read it right away. What have we got here? What's next? You know, see, this is why these old farmhouse bookshelves are so fascinating. Because you don't know what you're going to come across next. This is not even a novel. This is a Bill Bryson memoir. I think the least charming, least effective thing that he ever wrote, which is often the way with memoirs. Even a talented commercial storyteller like Bill Bryson, often they are not aware that their own story is not all that interesting. So they just think, I've always wanted to do this, now I have the cachet with my publisher to give it a try. And those books tend to die on the operating table. I think this one does. But it's here in the middle of all this fiction. What's the next one? I recognize the face. This is the Modern Library Prayer for Owen Meany. And it doesn't have an art cover. It just has the author's pretty face on the cover. Those of you who might not know and might want to use your Google image search, go ahead and look for what John Irving looked like when he was a muscular teenager. You'll be pleased. I think it's an incredibly overwrought novel, but entertaining. I would certainly like, for instance, if I came across a Penguin classic of this, or if Penguin ever did it, I'm sure they'll get around to Irving, or if I came across, like at a used bookstore, an interesting trade paperback edition of this, I would get it and reread it. Same thing with Hotel New Hampshire. I don't hate this author. I've never overcome certain complicated past with him in order to read his books with a fresh mind. Oh, this is lovely. Look at that. It's finished a naked hardcover. This is the Journal of Joyce Carol Oates. How interesting this must be. I've never read it. Wow. Just, I'd be willing to bet that this will be half intense personal stuff and half writing stuff. She never stops writing about writing. Those of you who've maybe studied her or read a lot of her work will notice that even the stuff that's allegedly not about writing ends up being about writing in huge part. I really think she lives by that. Oh God. Okay, well, here's someone who will tell you, would have told you that he lived by this, but he didn't. This is My Reading Life by Pat Conroy, which is, you could remove the word reading from this title, and that would be an accurate description of this book. It's not what it appears to be. You read it searching for the promise of the title. You read it searching for the kind of reading autobiography that would be great from an author with this kind of experience, but I don't think you get it in this book. I was certainly disappointed. Oh my God. Only in this house. It's the Barry Bender novels. Look at all these. Larry McMurtry did a series of slim historical novels called the Barry Bender Narratives that after the very first one, I don't even remember which of these is the first one. After the very first one, it was obvious that they were a failure, that there was no chemistry, that nothing ignited on the page. Here he is writing right in his wheelhouse, the old American Old West, and yet completely dead prose, completely forgettable characters. And it must have been a passion project of his. This is why I always say, always beware of author passion projects. It must have been a passion project of his because he just kept doing it. When he had been writing, when he wrote these things, he had been writing for 40 years. He knew perfectly well a successful book and a non-successful book, and he just kept doing them anyway. And it's weird because, look at that, that's a third of a shelf. That is a third of a shelf of a great American novelist, and it's a whole third of a shelf that you can safely ignore. These are a waste of time to read, and if you're a McMurtry completist, you have to have them on the shelf, but I would like to hear if any of you actually read one of these things and liked them. and you all know that I'm a big fan of his. It's just, this was just a mystery. Oh, look at this. Oh my. This is beautiful. Peter Mathiasson, A Shadow Country. This is a trilogy of novels, historical novels that he wrote about the horrible, brutal, blood-soaked beginnings of the state of Florida. And he wrote those novels over the course of a decade. And then when he was approached, by Modern Library to have them in a nice decorative volume, one volume, he did what almost nobody ever does, but it's pure Peter Matthiessen, a pure thing that he would do, you'd expect him to do, which is that he took all three of the novels and basically rewrote them into one narrative. So this is substantially different than the three books that went into it. What were the three books? They might mention them in here, but you really don't need to know. Yeah, Killing Mr. Watson, Lost Man's River, and Bone by Bone. But if you read those three books side by side, all in a series, and then you read this in a series, that'd be, first of all, I wouldn't advise that, but if you did, you would notice right away that he effectively wrote a new book. And that's kind of amazing. And it invalidates the need for the first three, because it's a better book. But what else? Okay. This is Billy Bathgate by E.L. Doctorow, who's famous for Ragtime, his historical novel Ragtime. This is so much better. I mean, Ragtime's great as a historical novel, but this is the best thing he ever wrote. Just a weird fantasia of a novel. In parts, it's grounded in reality, but it's a weird fantasia of a novel about a boy who is latched onto by the mob, and one character in particular who can see numbers in his head like a stream narrative. It's just incredible. At the beginning, there's a virtuoso scene in the middle, and there's a huge mad scene at the end that is just Doctorow writing just the doors off the book. This is fantastic. If you see Billy Bathgate, you should get it, because it's really, really good. I say better than Ragtime. Oh, goodness gracious. Okay, we have another block here. We have another block. Oh my, this is Howard Frank Mosher. Look at all this stuff. Probably predictable that you would see it here. He is most famous for this book, Stranger in the Kingdom. All very, very Vermont type stuff. Vermont fiction. No wonder you'd see it in this little farmhouse. How wonderful. And this is his nonfiction, isn't it? No, this is a novel. I don't think I ever read this. Waiting for Teddy Williams. The cow on the baseball field. I don't think I ever read this one. He has a legion of dedicated fans in Vermont. And I don't think he has much in the way of dedicated fans anywhere else. Okay, we have his North Country as well here on the shelf. And then we move on. Here, we're going to have to take these books out to get at. How do we finish up here? Okay, well, we finish up with Henry Miller. Not one word of Henry Miller, not just one book or one sentence, not one word that Henry Miller ever wrote is worth reading. So this is here, but you'll notice I have to think. I mean, I'm no mind reader, and I don't know Mark's reasons for having these books on these shelves. But you notice this is not a pretty hardcover gift edition of any kind. This thing looks like it could go if you were picking off weak members from the herd. At least that's what I'd like to think. And then what is the last one tucked in here? Oh God, help us. Oh no. Okay, we end on two bad notes. This is Jack Kerouac's grotesquely overpraised piece of crap, On the Road. And the reason that it's called the original scroll is because, as a gimmick, Kerouac wrote the thing on a continuous scroll of paper originally, the original draft. And since he is, a high prince of Dude Bro Lit, the Dude Bros just love that, because it's not boring. I mean, writing a novel in drafts on pages of paper is something that George frickin' Eliot would do. How boring is that? No, do it on a scroll, while high as a kite. so whatever. And like that would improve it. Here he is. There's the Lowell-born charlatan with his scroll. So we end on a bad note, but that's okay, because this shelf had a lot of great stuff on it. And the takeaway here, if we're going to have like a motto for each shelf that we do, the takeaway here is read Shadow Country by Peter Matthiessen, and most especially read Winter's Tale by Mark Helprin. And that's going to do it for this shelf, but we're going to move on. We're going to do some more shelves. So I'll see you then. Thank you for tuning.